Is it wrong for guys to pray with their ball cap on? He's wearing a hat right now, so I got to be careful how I answer this. And should women wear head covers? All right, so 1 Corinthians 11 it is. 1 Corinthians chapter 11 is our place to go. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but you'll find that Paul is responding to a series of issues going on in the church of Corinth. And so in there, he talks about how the head of every man is Christ, the head of woman is man, the head of Christ is God. So here these are tying our questions all together now. But every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. Every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. Now, it talks about her head being shaved. It goes on from there. Here's the thing we find is it's fascinating that Jewish people covered their heads. Jewish men covered their heads. Jewish women cover their heads. Jewish men and women, both in religious settings, have their heads covered. That's traditional. Today, you'll even find the really hardcore women, they shave their heads so that they can wear a wig. So it's always covered with the wig, and the wig counts as a covering. Go to Israel, you'll see that. The key to this section of text, I've always argued, is verse 16. If anyone seems contentious, we have no such custom, nor do the churches of God. This is one of the rare places in the New Testament because people sometimes try and pawn stuff off like, well, that was just a custom of their time that doesn't apply today. I go, you can't use that argument because you have to use that argument for the whole stinking book then, right? So you're telling me the entire book of Ephesians or the entire book of 1 Timothy or the entire book of that only apply? Well, no, then what makes that a custom? Well, this is a verse saying it's a custom. This verse clearly says what was going on in Corinth had to do with customs. And in Corinth, for a man to have his head covered would have been an emasculation. That's what it would have been, is he would have been doing a feminine thing. And for a woman to have her head uncovered, the idea there was that women would cover their hair once married. Young, they would be uncovered. And when they got married, it was like wearing a wedding ring. Because, wedding rings are newer things, right? This is not something back in Bible times. They weren't wearing wedding rings. But a woman would cover her head in that culture. So then to go to church, feeling liberated in Christ, because they are, and Paul emphasizes that to the Corinthians and the Romans and elsewhere, women, you're liberated, but by taking that cover off your head, you're saying you're not under your husband. And he clarifies, no. In your culture, you are sending a message to people that way. Now, I will say this. We've had people leave this church over the head covering conversation, upset because I wouldn't tell someone to take off their hat, a man. And the reality is this. I would always encourage men to realize that there actually is old-fashioned standards in America of taking off your hat for the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem. It's a tradition, right? It's nothing more than a tradition, but it's a long-held tradition and sign of respect. What about going to church? Well, there are people you'll offend if you wear your hat in church because that's a sign of respect. And so what I say is to the man wearing a hat, or a woman wearing a hat for that matter, right? I guess. But the idea is that you have to take that into consideration. You could offend someone. Pray about it. But the Bible truly is silent to the Christian. He took off his hat. Good. No. Conviction. No. You can ask everyone later. But the point is, though, is that the Bible is silent as far as a New Testament commandment that would stretch across all cultures and in all places.